Okay, here we're going to talk a little bit about circles and what is a circle. A circle is a set of points in a plane that are all equidistant from a fixed point, a plane being a flat surface. So basically, let's draw a picture of a circle. So this is what a circle might look like. So basically what we're saying is every point on this circle, here's the center right here, every point here is the same distance. So this distance here is the same as this distance here. So all the points that are the same distance, whatever that distance is, 2, 3, 5, whatever we decide to make it. So circles, of course, can get bigger and smaller. That's the definition of a circle. What we want to do is figure out an equation for a circle. To do that, I'm going to do it really quickly here. I'll look at this. So if we draw a circle out here somewhere, let's put my circle up here. So there's my circle. We'll call the center of the circle right here. Let's give that values h comma k. Let me get a different color for the rest of this here. So now this point right here we're going to call x, y. It's just a random point on the circle. So we want to figure, now this distance from here to here, we call that the radius, that's r. So it could be here to any point, and the distance from the center to any point is called the radius. So what I'm going to do now is draw a little bit, I'm going to put this right here like this to figure out an equation for the radius. Now this distance right here from here is the y difference. The height of this point is y. The height of this point is k. So this length is y minus k. And this length here, this point here has an x distance the same as this x distance. So this point is x minus h is this distance right here. So now I just go to Pythagorean theorem, a squared, because this is a right angle, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So the equation will be x minus h squared plus parentheses y minus k squared equals r squared. And that formula is going to be very important for us as we start dealing with circles. That's something we all need to memorize and work with. So let's look at a couple of problems for that. So here's the equation if I want to write it this way. The center of the equation, center of the circle is the points h comma k, and the radius is r. So when we look at problems, they're going to be asked different types. Sometimes they're going to say, what is the center and radius? So I'm going to write up here again the equation x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. That's the equation of a circle to look at. So the center, this is minus h, so it's basically the opposite of -2 and the opposite of positive -5. So the center would be the point 2 comma 5, and the radius r squared is 49, so r would be the square root of 49, or 7. Same thing here, plus it's going to be the opposite, so it's going to be center, it's going to be -4, positive 1. And the radius would be the square root of 121, or 11. This one here, confusing a little bit because there's no other number here. It's just basically y minus 0 here. So it's going to be -3 comma 0. And the radius is the square root of 10, which we don't really have, so we just write square root of 10. And that's it. Okay, now when we go to the next set, it's going to be the opposite method. Now we're going to go backwards. Remember, again, I'll write the equation up here. X minus h squared minus, or plus, parentheses, y minus k squared equals r squared. So in this one, we want to look at this and say, well, it's going a little bit backwards. The center is -3, so it's going to be x plus 3 squared, y minus 5, the opposite of 5, -5 here, squared equals 7 squared, which is 49. Same thing here. X minus 0 is just x squared. And then y minus 5 squared is 8 squared is 64. Same kind of thing here. We're going to say x minus 12 squared, like that. And then negative 6 would be y plus 6 squared. And then the square root of 15 squared is the square of a square root is just gets rid of the square root and you get 15. This one's a little trickier. Centers at the origin. Origin, we know, has the coordinates 0, 0. So it's x minus 0 squared or x squared. And then y minus 0 squared, y squared equals 25. And that's that. Okay, it gets a little trickier when we have something like this. The center's at the origin, so we know the coordinates there are 0 and 0. And then we want to figure out, but it contains the point negative 6, 8, means that's a point on the circle. So if I were to draw that just to get an idea what that might look like, it might look something like this. Negative 6, 8 is up here, so it might be a big old, there's the center, so it's going to be something like this. Is going to be my circle. And I want to know what the equation of that is. That's not a very good looking circle, but that's the idea. So now the center is at 0, 0, so I know it's going to be x squared plus y squared. X minus 0 squared is x squared, and y minus 0 squared is y squared. I just don't know the radius, but I can figure it out, because here's my point, negative 6, 8. And there's the other point here. So the distance between these 2 points, well, I can go down here like this. This distance here is a distance of 6, even though length negative 6, the distance is 6, and this distance is 8. 6 squared plus 8 squared equals r squared, because this is r. And so I simply have that 36 plus 64 equals r squared, so 100 equals r squared. So the answer here would be 100. Now, in our minds we're saying 10 because the radius is 10, but the equation asks for r squared, so it's simply going to be x squared plus y squared equals 100. And similarly, the next problem is a little bit different. The center is here, so I know the center already can be x plus 5 squared plus y minus 7 squared. And to figure out r, I have to figure out the distance between these 2 points. So I can go down here and say, the way I like to do distances, basically use Pythagorean theorem. How far is it from how far apart are the 2 x values? So from negative 5 to 0, that's 5, so that's 5 squared. From positive 7 to negative 5, it's going to be 7. 7 will get me to 0. And if I think of a number line, here's 0, here's 7, and here's negative 5. The distance between them is 7, and 5 is 12. So plus 12 squared equals r squared. That's going to give me my distance. So that's going to be 25 plus 144 equals r squared. 169 equals r squared. I'm actually done. If they ask for the radius, I would say 13, but the question has r squared here, so that's the answer to that one. The last part gets a little tricky when we have something like this, because now we don't have, they're not giving us the information to figure out the center and radius. We're asked to find the center and radius. It's not in the form. If it were in the form, like this right here, I can tell right away, here's the center, negative 5, positive 7, and the radius is 13, square root of that. But this isn't in the right form for that, so we got to change this to the form. We're going to go back to our old methods of completing the square. To do that, I'm going to put the x's together. So there's an x and there's an x. So I'm going to put x squared plus 6x. And leave a space because I'm going to complete the square for that somewhere. And now the y's are these guys, plus y squared minus 10y, and leave a space there. And the 30, I'm going to subtract 30 from both sides to get rid of it. So equals negative 30, and then something over here. Now, to complete the square, we want this to end up to be something squared, x minus or plus something squared here, and the same thing for the y. And that's the form that we want it to look like anyway. So this number here would have to be half of this number. Half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9, so we'll put plus 9 here, which means over here I got to put plus 9. And half of 10 is 5, so negative 5 squared is plus 25. And this goes plus 25. So now when I write this, half of this number goes here in my complete the square method, and half of this number goes here in a complete the method there. Equals, and then negative 30 plus 9 plus 25 is 4. So the equation now becomes this right here. Now, while that's not the answer to the equation, the answer was they asked for the center and radius. It's much easier when I have it in this form to find the center and radius. So I look at this and I say, well, this opposite of that is the opposite of the y thing. So this is h is the opposite of positive 3, and k is the opposite of negative 5. So the center is negative 3, positive 5. And the radius is the square root of 4, which is 2. And that's that for that one. Okay. I'm going to skip this one for now. If you want to just look at it now and work it, pause and work it out, this is the equation here, and there's the answer here. The last couple of problems are a little trickier because now we don't have an equation at all. We have a picture. We want to know we want to write the equation of this. Well, when I look at this, the center, the coordinates of my center for this are going to be 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 4. So already I get most of it done. I know it's going to be x minus 3 squared plus y plus 4 squared equals r squared, but I don't know what r is, or r squared for that matter. So what I'm going to do is figure it out. Now I have to figure out the radius, but I mean the radius here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a little bit more. Well, that's kind of hard to work with because I don't know how much more that is, because you can see it's a little bit higher here. Same thing over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a little bit more. So it's hard to figure out. But I do see a point right here that looks like a good point to use. So if I did the radius like this, because remember the radius doesn't have to go sideways or straight up and down. It can go at angles or whatever. Any point from the center to the edge of the circle is the radius. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make my right triangle here and say, what are the distances here? This distance is 3, as well as this distance, and that's a right angle. So I can say 3 squared plus 3 squared equals r squared. 9 plus 9 equals r squared. 18 equals r squared, so there's my equation. X minus, well, just look at it here. X minus 3 squared plus y plus 4 squared equals 18 is the final answer to that one. Now, if I'd have used a different point, like maybe this one over here, it would have been the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, still there. Or this one down here, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, as far as the distance goes, because we're squaring things, so negatives and positives don't make a difference. Okay, that's pretty much all for today. For the circles, we should be able to do that. If you wanted to work on the last problem from the work today, was this one. If you look at this one here, we have the points negative 1, 7, and negative, what is that, negative 5, 3. So my equation is going to look like this. So this length is 32. Figuring out this length, sometimes we have the point, well, let's just leave it at that. I'll just leave it there. Okay.